so the first thing we need to do is clean this. So I'm just gonna spray some Windex on here and get this nice and clean, because any trapped dust particles or anything like that will show. They won't show from the side where it's mounted actually, but it will show from the top, which doesn't really matter. But just to make sure that we get a good cling onto this, it's nice to have it clean. So I'm just gonna get this nice and scrubbed up here, and then we can spray it with soapy water and get that cling stuck up here. And this does have rounded corners, and the clings are printed with square corners. So I do have a little X-Acto knife, or you could use a razor blade or a pocket knife or whatever you wanted to get it trimmed perfectly into those corners if you wanted. This is also not a square sunroof, which so I ordered a little bit oversized. So I probably will have to trim a little bit. So that's kind of the problem with a lot of these sunroofs, is they're not perfectly square like a house window. So this is looking pretty clean. Just want to make sure we get these corners good, because we don't want it falling off on the corners. So we want a nice, good, clean seal. All right, so I have, this is almost all water. I just put a couple drops of dish soap in it because that will just help it slide and squeegee out the bubbles a little bit better when we're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all sprayed with, you can use plain water if you want. You don't have to use soapy water. I usually use plain water, but some people say it does help to have a little bit of soap in there. So we're gonna give that a try. This is my first time trying with soap, so we'll see what works. And I have one for both of these sunroofs, for the front and the back, and it's one continuous design. So I'm hoping that I'm gonna pick the right one here and get it laid on correctly. This looks like the one for the front, and then I gotta grab the bigger one here for the section over the kids. So these come printed like this, and they have a little film on the back. So now I kind of have to figure out which way this needs to go to join up with my other design. And I think it can only go on one way. All right, so I'm just gonna peel the film off of the back of this. And then we gotta get this lined up here. So I'm gonna try and line up this close edge, seems the easiest to me. And you can always slide it a little bit once it's up there. Okay, and remember, we're going to squeegee out the bubbles later to get it to lay perfectly flat, so it's not a big deal. All right, and so you can see we're almost done already, and I've got a little bit of overhang because I remember I ordered this a little bit oversized so that I could trim it. So I'm just going to try and get this over a little bit. Sometimes you do need to take it back off and on a couple times to get it to lay perfectly flat. Let's see, got to move this to the right a hair, and maybe back this way a hair. What do you think, Melissa? Look pretty good so far?
Yeah, what we said.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to take this down, and we're just going to respray it. Okay, we'll give it one more misting. All right, just to make sure we have a little bit of room to work here. Just makes it a lot easier if you keep it really wet. Okay, so just keep it very nice and moist. Sometimes you can spray this thing directly too. So remember, you're going to squeegee this all out. It's good to have a couple spare paper towels on hand just for that, once you squeeze out all the excess. So I'm going to get this way back this way. And it does help to have an extra set of hands, so I'll just point that out. All right, can you help me flip this up? Yeah, and the wetter you have this, the easier it is to slide around. So you want to keep it really nice and wet, and it will adhere, okay? All right, perfect. We got good coverage the whole way around, and now I can come in here with a razor blade and trim these corners, or you can just leave them hang a little bit. I'll probably trim them, but you can probably just leave them. And now you just need to get a credit card to squeegee this out. All right, so now we're just gonna take a credit card. This is a Chipotle gift certificate. And then we're just gonna squeeze out all the excess water, air bubbles, whatever's in there, and it will be perfectly flush the whole way through. And you can see that's all dripping on me. So I'm just gonna get that wiped up here. It helps to just keep the paper towel under wherever you're squeegeeing. So you can see these are the bubbles that we're trying to get out here. So you can see they just push right out, very nice and easy. And then they just drain out the edge here when you get to the edge. So we're just going to do that across the whole thing until we don't see any obvious bubbles. And if you want to make sure it's perfect, you can always climb on top of the vehicle and look down, because it's much more easy to see the bubbles on the glass side than it is on the cling side, because of the frosted kind of plays with how you see through it. But the glass side, you obviously don't have to look through that frosted film.